Exclusive engagements start Sunday at the AMC Century City.
Once you had to be very tall to clean high places. But now there's the new Hoover Legacy Cleaner, the upright that cleans up with a handy double-stretch hose. For cleaning high places, it's a different kind of animal. Convenience. Hoover invented it.
Paul's can deliver this 45-inch Mitsubishi big screen TV by Christmas. You make no payments till July, and Paul's the king of big screen.
I am the king.
Presenting an hour of unlikely heroes.
God, I love being a turtle!
Winners and losers. Victims and villains. His year, her year, their year, and your year. Images of 1990, a Time Magazine television special.
See the people and events that helped shape the beginning of a new decade. Watch Images of 1990, a California 9 special, this Saturday at 9.
Next on Prime 9 News at 9, the Soviet Union's top diplomat drops a bombshell on Gorbachev and on the world. Eduard Shevardnadze resigns in a time of crisis. But why?
And the big-time morning radio team of Mark and Brian have just returned from a whirlwind trip to the Gulf, but they almost didn't make it. Their story when they join us live.
Plus, a warning about taking your pet with you on holiday vacation. There are dangers you may not be aware of, and we'll show you.
And how cold is it? It's cold enough to snow, and get this, it's about to get even colder on this Thursday, December 20th, the day before winter.
You're watching KCAL TV, Norwalk, Los Angeles, California 9. Now, Pat Harvey, David Jackson, Wayne Shattuck, weather, and Gary Cruz on sports. This is Prime 9 News at 9.
I wish to make the following statement. I am resigning. Don't react, don't curse me. Let it be my contribution, if you wish, my protest against advancing dictatorship.
Shocking news out of Moscow from Eduard Shevardnadze, the Soviet leader who helped Gorbachev free Europe and end the Cold War. Good evening. I'm David Jackson.
And I'm Larry Carroll for Pat Harvey. Here's what's happening in prime time.
Well, the Soviet foreign minister quits, accusing hardliners in his government of sabotaging 5 years of economic and political reforms. Shevardnadze barely stopped short of criticizing President Gorbachev. Instead, he told a stunned parliament that he continues to support Gorbachev and the reform policies that the pair have worked out together. But he says he believes reactionaries are gaining strength. Several lawmakers say they think Shevardnadze is protesting Gorbachev's growing personal power.
I think that Gorbachev should take this Shevardnadze's affair as a very serious signal that he is too far from the mainstream of real reform process.
Gorbachev, meanwhile, denies a dictatorship is brewing to control increasing chaos in the Soviet Union. He's criticizing Shevardnadze for quitting during a time of crisis.
We are
in the hardest of all possible times. Leaving at this point is unforgivable. It must be condemned.
Gorbachev told deputies that he'd persuaded Shevardnadze to stay until a replacement could be found, but the foreign minister spokesman says that his resignation is irreversible. Larry?
Well, David, meantime, Gorbachev is assuring Washington that the blossoming U.S.-Soviet relationship won't be affected by the loss of Shevardnadze. The former foreign minister had developed especially close ties with U.S. Secretary of State James Baker. Their cooperation has resulted in an historic partnership in the Persian Gulf crisis and other areas.
We achieved some significant things during the 23 months that we were able to work together, and it's on a purely personal note, I would have to tell you that I'm going to miss him.
Even if Shevardnadze's replacement stays on track, Baker must now embark on a brand new relationship, and a change in leadership offers an element of uncertainty as we approach the United Nations January 15th deadline for Saddam Hussein to withdraw from Kuwait. Also unclear is the effect of the resignation on arms control talks.
If there is no change, then we would expect that the agreement with respect to START would move forward to the end that President Gorbachev and President Bush could sign it at their February summit.
President Bush, who has still not commented, that is, on Shevardnadze's resignation, is set to meet with President Gorbachev in Moscow on February 11th.
Well, if you ask most Americans about the dramatic changes that have taken place inside the Soviet Union during the past 5 years, most of them will immediately think of President Gorbachev.
But while Gorbachev has been the architect of those changes, it's been his longtime friend Eduard Shevardnadze who's had the job of carrying out Gorbachev's plans. Stan Wilson is here right now with a closer look at the man who helped to end the Cold War. Stan?
And Larry and David, I do not think this is an exaggeration to say he was a man who helped end the Cold War, because consider this. In the past year alone, Secretary of State Baker has met with Shevardnadze 19 times, discussing everything from the reduction of nuclear weapons to the crisis in the Persian Gulf. Now that shows how important his role has been as far as the U.S. is concerned. And as the rest of the world knows, it is Shevardnadze, as much as anyone else, who has worked to bring about the reforms that now mean freedom to millions of Europeans. To see what Eduard Shevardnadze has done to help shape the world, look no further than Czechoslovakia. This past year, democracy was born in a country that for years had been nothing more than a Soviet satellite. World leaders are calling Shevardnadze a giant of diplomacy for his work that led to freedom for much of Eastern Europe.
I know Mr. Shevardnadze. I've talked with him many times. He's a statesman of world renown, and he was a great and enthusiastic supporter of the reforms.
Gorbachev picked Shevardnadze to replace this man, Andrei Gromyko, back in 1985. And almost immediately, the Cold War began to warm a little.
He has clearly been a force for moderation and reform in the Soviet Union, a direction which I think is a good one for their country and good for our country.
During his tenure as foreign minister, Shevardnadze pushed for the withdrawal of Soviet troops from Afghanistan and admitted military intervention there had been a mistake. He also oversaw the fall of the Berlin Wall and helped pave the way for the reunification of Germany. And he worked to end the Cold War with the U.S., negotiating the reduction of nuclear weapons and working to reduce the number of Warsaw Pact and NATO troops in Europe. But as Soviet television reported, while Shevardnadze was winning friends around the world, he was making enemies inside his own country. Many in the Soviet military blame him for the decline of the Soviet Empire. And now, with empty store shelves, long lines for food, and a cold winter ahead, the Soviets themselves are wondering what will happen next.
This is certainly a very serious loss, because Shevardnadze is most respected Soviet political figure, and we have very few moral and professional authorities in my country.
Again, the Soviets say their foreign policy will remain unchanged no matter who replaces Shevardnadze. But Western leaders are not so certain tonight. And many are already calling for more aid to help the Soviets get through this winter and to help them continue their political and economic reforms. And David and Larry, we must remember that all of the Soviet republics have to one degree or another declared independence from Moscow. So there is talk, a minority right now, but there is talk of a possibility of at least serious civil unrest and possibly civil war. But it seems again, it's premature to say that.
It seems certainly clear in the meantime that the conservative forces in the Soviet Union are at least viewing areas of opportunity, and the removal of Shevardnadze today in the picture is encouraging of them, I would think.
And it has a lot of people worried because it is the conservatives who oppose the moves to free up Eastern Europe and all those different freedom movements in East Germany and in Czechoslovakia. As we have seen, the leaders in those countries are now wondering what happens next vis-a-vis the Soviet Union. So a lot of questions tonight.
All right, Stan, thanks. And a quick mention, by the way, the resignation, although it appears bad, could even be good, and that is being said, at least according to one Soviet expert. He'll be joining us live to add more perspective to all of this. That's coming up here on Prime 9 News in about 30 minutes, Larry.
And now to the Persian Gulf. The Pentagon has stepped up its war of nerves against Saddam Hussein. This after Lieutenant General Calvin Waller said American troops might not be ready for an all-out war against Iraq on January 15th. The Pentagon warned Hussein today the U.S. Air Force is ready to give Iraq a pounding. It says Saddam Hussein should not get the idea the U.S. is backing off of that January deadline. At the White House, President Bush met with members of Congress just back from the Gulf. Bush told them that if it came to war, Saddam would, quote, get his ass kicked. Well, the president was vague about the timetable on that.
Finish this up right now. We'll finish.
The president made a reference to the summertime and said he didn't think we should wait that long, but he didn't get much more specific beyond that.
Do we need to talk to you all, or can we just go on?
Pentagon says 10,000 more troops arrived in the Gulf this week. Congressman Anthony Bielenson had this to say.
And I don't know why General Waller made the remarks that he made yesterday. It may simply be that those who are there now quite obviously are and were ready when we saw them, And I suppose it's only natural that if there are to be another 100 to 150,000 troops brought in the next 2 or 3 weeks, it may well take them a little time to feel that they're entirely ready.
Clearly, Bielenson didn't hear any doubts about combat readiness in the Gulf. The arrivals this week bring the total there to 280,000 troops. Saddam Hussein is preparing his people for the possibility of massive American airstrikes. Iraqi officials say they'll conduct test blackouts of Baghdad and air raid drills as a trial evacuation of the city as well. Iraq's neighbor Turkey is also getting nervous. Turkey is asking for NATO reinforcements to guard against a possible strike from Iraq, and there are reports more Iraqi troops have been sent to the Turkish border. David.
Thousands of American troops face a bleak Christmas in the Persian Gulf area, but some very lucky ones are back home for the holidays. Santa Claus was on hand to greet the USS Antietam when the guided missile cruiser steamed into Long Beach Harbor. Hundreds of excited relatives showed up at dockside there. The Antietam sailed for the Gulf 6 months ago. Meanwhile, in San Diego, there was even more celebrating, this time on a bigger scale. Thousands of sailors aboard the USS Independence were finally back home.
It was the best holiday gift these families could get. Their loved ones, the 5,000 men on the USS Independence, are out of harm's way, back home safe in San Diego. Sailor Walt Pierce met his 3-month-old daughter for the first time.
And she smiled. Did you see her smiling at him? She really. So she knows who her daddy is.
The toughest part was when it first started, knowing that I wouldn't be around, take care of business, take care of my family and everything. And then it got pretty scary when they called us to, to go into the Gulf and everything.
Sailor Stephen Chandler saw his twin sons for the first time as well. They were born while he was away.
I can't believe they're ours. I can't believe we did it. It astounds me.
Chandler said tensions were high in the Gulf and he was worried about his wife, but mail from home helped him through.
They were either real busy or real boring, one of the two. And either one, it was great to see the support that we got from back home. That was one of the biggest things that got us through. Was the people that stood behind us.
The good news for these sailors is they will not be sent back to the Gulf unless war breaks out. And if that happens, this sailor plans to re-enlist.
I hope that this all ends peacefully, but like we're all there for one purpose, to protect America's interests. That's what we're here for.
The USS Independence was sent to the Persian Gulf right after the invasion of Kuwait back on the 2nd of August. It was the first Navy ship to arrive in the area.
Well, many other families, David, could only be together in spirit.
But that spirit was alive and well tonight at a special Christmas celebration for military families. Operation Christmas is coming up.
And look at the snow. It's been coming down all day. We're going to take you live to our local mountains for an up-to-date report on the conditions. That's in 17 minutes.
Plus, 1 year after the U.S. invasion of Panama, the success of that mission is still being debated. We will take a look back coming up in 26 minutes.
And later on, Siskel and Ebert, the best movie picks for the weekend, coming up at about 9:55.
But first, Mark and Brian, the morning team, joining us tonight with their story of their own trip into the Gulf area. That'll be live right after this.
Don Corleone, this deal can make you one of the richest men in the world. Your whole past history will be washed away.
We want to do business with you, Michael.
I said we make him dead. You give me the order.
Our true enemy has not yet shown his face. Treachery is everywhere.
Just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in.
The Godfather, Part 3, rated R.
I'm not panicking. I mean, I haven't done my shopping yet, and it's the last minute, and there won't be anything left in the stores, but still, I'm not panicking. And I'm broke. Now I'm panicking.
Right now, Ross has great gifts for $15 and under. Quality, brand-name gifts that cost twice as much anywhere else. So why go anywhere else? Even the department store sale price can't beat the Ross price.
So now I only have to wrap 65 gifts.
Ah, the good old days. A little upstart airline brought a smile to California with low fares and lots of flights. Alas, fares went up, flights went down, and the smiles faded. Now, Southwest Airlines has 2 ways to get to Las Vegas, with 5 flights from Ontario and 7 from Burbank for just $59 or less. So, thanks to Southwest Airlines, low fares and lots of flights to Las Vegas are back.
Due to excess inventory, GMC Truck is holding a model closeout.
This is a limited time program to reduce inventory levels on 1990 Sierra pickup trucks only. The program includes $500 cash back or a competitive finance rate for qualified buyers, plus a special cash value incentive direct to dealers. Come in today and make your best deal on a 1990 Sierra pickup while supplies last. GMC Truck. It's not just a truck anymore. It's quality on the road.
First, it looked like they would not be allowed in, but KLOS Radio's morning team of Mark and Brian did, in fact, broadcast from Saudi Arabia this week. The duo was part of a care package flight leaving LAX on Monday, loaded with gifts for U.S. troops in the Gulf area. When they got on the plane, they knew they would get at least as far as Scotland, but it turns out that they were finally allowed to continue on into Saudi Arabia. Once there, they broadcast a 4-hour radio show on KLOS and other stations nationwide from a U.S. military base in the country.
Well, Mark and Brian are back now, preparing for their annual radio Christmas show tonight.
That's right. They are at the Airport Marriott Hotel. They join us from there live. Mark Thompson and Brian Phelps, both of them with us tonight.
Greetings, gentlemen.
What was, first of all, first impressions of, you were in Saudi Arabia really only for a day, you were on the base, but did you get any sense of being in the country of Saudi Arabia at all?
Only from the standpoint that when you fly in, you see the Persian Gulf and the sand and the flatness of the area, and the military base was where we primarily stayed, but outside the base there is nothing but sand.
I got the impression, just from listening to portions of the show, that you were fairly impressed with what you saw and emotionally struck by the experience as well.
It was a very emotional show. We went over there with thoughts of bringing them good cheer and to show them how much we think about them and care about them and love them. But once you get over there, your whole attitude changes. You're seeing them. You're not just seeing them on the news or on video. You're actually touching them and seeing them and shaking their hands. You look into their eyes. It's pride. It's calm, but it's sort of a forced calm, it seemed. One memory sticks in our minds. After we did our broadcast, we walked up the stairs to the plane, and there was one guy out there whose main duty, one kid who was like 18, his main duty was to shut the door of that plane. And he's been doing it for 5 months, and he is on the outside of the plane, and we got to get inside and take off. And that's very hard. And just you could tell in his eyes he wanted to be inside that plane so bad. But he was there, and he was going to stay.
As we're sitting on the plane of the MGM Grand and we look out the window, the servicemen are waving at us, and we realize at that point that we're leaving and they're not. And we all experienced about a good hour of depression because of that. We felt good about what we had done, but still, we go and they don't.
And even as an extension of that, it has to change your feelings about the idea of actually having warfare involving these troops, because now it becomes much more human, as you were saying, much more real. These are real people that you now know over there involved.
Yes. We've talked about it before when we first met, that we both agree we couldn't kill a bird. We couldn't take a BB gun and kill a bird, and that's just the way we are. But to go over there and to see that these guys that we just shook hands with could very well be dead in 3 weeks, in 4 weeks' time.
You guys are really basically inclined to be silly people, and it wasn't a silly situation that it was in. Has it changed you significantly?
You have to be changed if you see that.
Well, the thing of it is that, again, the realism, as you were talking about, was extremely heavy for us, and we're human beings, and that's the way we like to present our radio programs. So in going over and allowing some of these servicemen to contact wives and children and moms and realizing that they're not going to be home for Christmas, we shared a tear like every other serviceman that was around the show that day did.
We don't necessarily want to specifically dwell on complaints that they may have had, but I spent plenty of time over there as well. I'm curious if you had any contact with the women and whether or not they said anything to you about being perhaps in a state of lower morale because they have such a difficult time in the country.
I don't think so. The troopers that we saw over there, the females seemed to be okay. You know, I mean, they were surrounded by friends. They were surrounded by other troopers who took care of them, and they seemed very confident in what they were doing.
Also, one thing we came away with was that the men and women that are there and are all in this situation are very strongly bonded together because they're in this situation together. Mm-hmm. Not one they're happy about, not one they're necessarily pleased with, but they're there representing our country. And their morale is very high. They seem to be up and prepared for whatever they're going to have to go do.
Well, gents, thanks very much for being with us this evening, and I know you got to get up bright and early and be bright as you normally are, but we appreciate your sharing this evening with us, and
This is the first time that we've ever videotaped anything in a hotel room except for that Rob Lowe incident.
Well, just that one time. It was just a quick thing.
We might play that at 11:30.
Thank you very much.
Take it easy,
Late
guys.
hours. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, guys.
And I think they're very correct in saying that there's such a bonding when the troops are there, obviously, and they're isolated because they're not out in the country as much as they might be in other countries. That it's a little bit easier for the women in that case because they do spend their time on the base.
And the people seem to be drawn together in situations that call for or that have danger associated with them and hardship. And I think that's all part of that Army experience. In any case, an entire Southland city is paying tribute tonight to its native sons and daughters stationed in the Gulf for the holidays. The city of Bellflower put on a party to honor our troops in the Gulf and the families they left behind. Many guests wore yellow flowers in memory of their loved ones stationed miles away for the holidays, and the Christmas tree at Bellflower's Friendship Square Community Center wore yellow ribbons as well. Many attending tonight's celebration say they just received phone calls from their children.
You know, he called to wish us a Merry Christmas. He's a long way away from home, you know, and we miss him very, very much, but he seems to be getting along real good. So we're thankful for that.
We're going to have Christmas with my son when he comes back. He's stated that he has so much stuff over there now, he doesn't know how he's going to bring it home. He said if he can't eat it, he doesn't want it.
Plaques were presented to the families of GIs as a way to thank them for all of their sacrifices.
Just ahead tonight, how to make it a safe holiday season for your pet.
There are do's and don'ts when it comes to taking your pet along for the ride. Valuable life-saving tips coming up next.
Reformulated Chevron Supreme. The new unleaded gasoline that reduces hydrocarbon emissions and delivers smoother performance. Reformulated Chevron Supreme, the best of both worlds.
Come on! Let's go! Oh, I hate Mondays. Where do you want me to go?
Hey, beautiful.
I can't go
My name's
anywhere.
Tony. I'm a Scorpio. Hi, how about a little...
When your car does what it's supposed to do,
a meeting,
and your dealer does what he's supposed to do,
I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna
that's
make it.
two less things you have to worry about. Your Southern California Honda dealers, as dependable as the cars they sell.
Grab your gift list and get set to save. Friday only, 8 to midnight only. The 16-hour sale counts down at Circuit City. Take home a VHS VCR with remote control and cable-ready tuner. Just $159. And save now on a Sony AM/FM cassette player. Keep rocking with auto reverse. Only $57. Friday only, 8 to midnight only. It's the 16-hour sale. Time to save at Circuit City.
Welcome to Circuit City, where service is state-of-the-art.
Critics call The Bonfire of the Vanities funny.
Calm, cool, collated,
Powerful.
let's not lose our composure over a few $100 million.
Tom Hanks is wonderful.
I'm going to jail, aren't I?
Bruce Willis is marvelous.
Oh, Shantae.
And Melanie Griffith shines.
You're great.
You're both great.
It's a great, glorious carnival of life in the 80s.
Look at him.
Just watch the sparks fly. The Bonfire of the Vanities. Rated R. Starts Friday, December 21st at a theater near you.
Topping tonight's business report, the business of health care. Costs have shot up to roughly $2,400 a year for every man, woman, and child in the country. The nation's health care spending hit an all-time high last year, more than $600 billion. Now that's up 11% from the year before. Health and Human Services Secretary Louis Sullivan calls the growth in health care costs alarming. Larry?
Sausalito man has won a landmark court case after claiming his heart attack was caused by the people who smoked around him where he used to work. Avatar Ubi won almost $100,000. He said the heart attack he suffered last year was caused by the smoke he inhaled while working at this restaurant, smoke that came from other people. And the California Compensation Insurance Fund agreed. Ubi is a vegetarian, says he has never smoked. If you're traveling by air this holiday season and plan on taking your pet along, we have some safety tips as well as a warning for you tonight. We've witnessed firsthand the dangers of transporting pets by air, but there are things you can do to ensure your pet's safety. Channel 9 reporter Tony Guignard has the story.
Oh, honey, it's okay. No.
We'll be okay.
Planning to board a flight and take the family pet along too? You might want to rethink that decision. Corey Whetstone with the SPCA warns there are hazards you might not be aware of. Hazards that came to light in September when 24 puppies died during a flight to San Diego.
We've had complaints where animals were shipped, had died during transit, or became seriously ill after transit. We've also had complaints of animals who were able to break out of their cages and get lost during stopovers.
Statistics released by the SPCA just a few days ago show that more than 70 animals died during air transit over the past year. But many airline carriers are listening to the complaints and making what pet lovers call necessary changes. Roxanne DeSanto and her dog Chelsea have flown together more times than she can count. She has never had any problems.
If someone's not comfortable with it, then that's their prerogative not to be comfortable. But I feel comfortable, and I really want the dog with me, so I'd take the dog.
So he'll be down there after the luggage.
Yeah.
If you must take the pet with you, the SPCA has a few guidelines. Use a sturdy, easily identified pet carrier. It should provide proper ventilation and room, and most of all, just ask questions. Some airlines allow pets that can fit in carriers under your seat to board the flight with you. At LAX, Tony Guignard, Channel 9 News.
The SPCA advises not to transport any pug-nosed pet by air, and that includes Persian cats, and that's because of their skull structure. They apparently have difficulty breathing. Recently, 2 continental flights turned around after cargo hold problems put pets in danger. David?
A real-life rescue at Universal Studios has a happy ending. Jerry Dunphy has that story and more in his Southland in 60 seconds.
Firefighters worked 3 hours to free construction worker Rob Truelove from a tight spot. Truelove was working on a sewer line when a 1-ton boulder became loose and pinned him in a trench. Rescue workers say he was in good shape when they pulled him out. What would you do if it were cold and raining and you were homeless? Advocates for the homeless are asking that question of LA County supervisors. They charge that the supervisors haven't set up a cold weather shelter program for the homeless, and they're asking the public to demand action. More than 24 charges have been dropped against 7 LA County Sheriff's deputies. The deputies were already convicted in a drug and money laundering scandal, the worst in department history. LA City firefighters used an abandoned building to teach some lessons. They showed how difficult it is to rescue people trapped inside by unremovable security bars. They also set a Christmas tree on fire to demonstrate how quickly it can burn. And that's the Southland in 60 seconds.
Still to come, a dramatic rescue. A little boy is pulled from an icy pond.
Plus, the latest on our own freezing weather. The snow just finishing its fall up at Big Bear. We'll have that because Joe Avalar's up there.
David, you're right. I'm up here. It's cold. It's 12 degrees, I just found out, so I don't feel so badly about shivering out here. I'll tell you more about what it's like up here as Prime 9 News continues.
The Russia House. Cosmopolitan calls it the year's most sophisticated, suspenseful, and sexy entertainment.
Do I disturb you?
Deeply. Sean Connery gives the performance of his career.
I won't let you down.
Michelle Pfeiffer is enchanting.
This is very dangerous for
The Russia House is cinematic caviar. Rated R.
Now playing at a theater near you.
Giant Cerritos Ford has a huge selection of 1991 Explorers, available in 2- and 4-wheel drive, powered by Ford's new 4.0 V6 engine. Great Cerritos Ford values like this sporty 2-door with air conditioning, only $13,591, or this luxurious 4-door loaded with air conditioning, power steering, tilt wheel, cruise control, at only $14,591. Remember, Cerritos Ford has over 50 Explorers in stock with prices starting at $13,591. Cerritos Ford, the 605 freeway, South Street exit, Cerritos.
The Broadway celebrates the spirit of the season with Merry Christmas gifts for everyone on your list. Nothing brings a sparkle to the eye better than the elegance of fine jewelry. Watches of 14-karat gold and diamonds, necklaces, bracelets, and earrings of cultured pearls and gold. Lasting beauty that dazzles and delights. This Christmas, give the splendor of gold and allure of diamonds from our special collection of fine jewelry. Give the gifts that make Southern California merry. Only from the Broadway.
Who gives you magic? Game after game.
It's high-flying action when Magic and the Lakers take to the court against the Chicago Bulls' Michael Jordan Friday at 5, right after the Laker pregame show with Joe Fowler at 4:30 here on California Now.
We play the Lakers here all night.
The Prime 9 News Weather Report is sponsored by Southwest Airlines. Southwest Airlines is giving California something to smile about. Low fares and lots of flights from Los Angeles, Ontario, and now Burbank. Happy days are here again.
Well, the frigid weather throughout the country has brought more than just ice and snow. It's brought danger as well. In Colorado today, a dramatic ice rescue barely prevented a winter tragedy. While walking to school, a young boy fell through thin ice covering a pond. He was in the freezing water for 10 minutes before any help arrived. That boy managed to swim to the ladder, but if help had taken just a few minutes more to get there, it may well have been too late. Wow. And the Southland is having its own snow. The mountains just north of Los Angeles look like a scene out of Dickens today, a Dickens of a snowfall. A couple of snowfalls provided an unexpected treat for skiers and snow lovers, but the Highway Patrol says it's also created some serious road hazards up there. It says, definitely bring your chains, even if you have snow tires.
Even four-wheel drive trucks going off the road there.
You got that right.
Well, there is one place where a snowstorm is greeted with open arms, and that's Big Bear.
And they live for this stuff, believe me. Joe Avalar is up there right now, and he joins us with a live report. Joe.
Well, you've got to have chains up here, actually, Larry, David. But I've got good news to report up here, only good news, no tragedies. Everybody's having a good time up here. Everybody's enjoying the snow. As I said before, it's 12 degrees here. You can see my breath. It's very cold. Fortunately, the wind is stopped. The snow is stopped. Most of it's on the ground, and it makes a very pretty picture. Perhaps as you were standing in L.A. today, you looked to the east, and you could see those mountains covered in the clouds. Well, those mountains were where I am right now. The folks at the ski area say those clouds were just a big advertisement. This is what they told us.
Well, whenever you get a snowstorm that comes through at this temperature, which means the snow level is going to be quite low on the mountain, and everybody can see that snow, it does more than all the promotional efforts that we can do all season long, because people can see that there's snow in the mountains, and that's one of the best sells that we can have.
The slopes are packed with people. Good skiers, not so good skiers, learning skiers, skiers at the bar, but we'll get to those later. All of them having fun. This is the time these resorts get busy, and the snow that you see on the ground is what the people here wanted for Christmas.
I think we'd always have a strong Christmas week simply because that's a traditional time that people love to go skiing. This is certainly going to make it better, I can guarantee you that.
Makes it good for you.
It's going to be great.
The snow on the ground is light, dry, and powdery. Frankly, for a non-skier like me, that doesn't mean a whole lot. But to those on the slopes, you having fun?
Yeah, what? Snow up here.
Yeah, it's great. It's kind of cool, though. People even lined up for the last call on the list for that last run down the slopes before the little light that you see disappeared. But if you're cold or tired, there's always the lodge, the fireplace.
This is what we wait for all year, is a snowfall. We've been waiting since the middle of November to get some snow, and it's here, and it takes all the tension off everybody. Everybody's happy.
Well, we're happy here, too, but I'll tell you, we'll be happier as soon as we come back to you live at 10, tell you a little bit more about businesses here, and then we can get in front of that fireplace. Reporting live, Joe Avalar, back to you.
Listen, while you're up there, pick me up a couple of lift tickets, will you please?
Yeah, thanks.
Check will be in your mailbox.
Yeah.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Joe. Well, I guess it's mostly gone at this point as far as the snowfall itself. Is that the end of the line, or is there something else?
We do have still a snow advisory for the Tehachapi Mountains for tonight. Highway 58 through the Tehachapi Pass was just opened at about 5:30 this evening, but restricted travel still there and chains, of course, required. Other than that, most of the snow has ended throughout the Southland. And for the next couple of days, we will be dry, but continue to be very, very cold. I want to show you a winter scene now where we don't usually think of seeing a winter scene. Look at this. This is better than it's really been in a long time. I believe these are some mountains in the Southern California area. This is not Seattle. I want to make sure that you know that. Let's take a look at our current conditions. Right now, we've got 46 degrees. Our humidity is 23%. The winds are out of the northwest at 10 miles per hour. So, gang, that gives us a wind chill index down in the 30s. Our barometric pressure is 2989 and rising. The early morning low was 45. High today, 55. Normal's 48, 68, and they're the records for this date. Now, I want to show you our satellite picture. You can see a big band of cloudiness. This is one big winter storm area from the Rockies through the northern plains tonight. Additional cloud cover and some rain here, but this is the real big problem area, and it's because of this strong upper-level storm that is bending the jet stream way down across here. This is a picture we don't usually see, and because it's this way, that's the reason for our cold, cold air coming down. And until this starts to lift out, we're going to remain cold, and that means tonight, tomorrow. In fact, I don't really start to see us back into the 60s in the Southland until probably Saturday or Sunday. Here's our forecast map for tomorrow afternoon. Snow up and down the Rockies through the northern plains into the Great Lakes. Rain to the east coast, including New York City, and along this front down through southern Texas, also southern sections of Arizona. These temperatures you see are highs. And this is at Denver, a -2 for their warmest temperature tomorrow. And up at Great Falls, Montana, they will get no warmer than 15 degrees. Much, much warmer, as you can see, in the East Coast. Now, we do have advisories tonight. Freeze warning for our inland valleys of the coastal areas. The high wind advisory for the deserts, that's been canceled. Mostly clear is the forecast for Los Angeles tonight. A downtown low of 40. For tomorrow, we will be mostly sunny and winds still brisk. A downtown high of 55 in the valleys, 48 to 55. 5-day outlook shows mostly sunny conditions and 50s for the next couple of days, but by Sunday we get to 62 and continuing to warm. Here's your first look at Christmas Day. Partly cloudy skies on Christmas and 68 degrees. Now, since we are now in the snowy Christmas spirit, let's take a look at this week's ski report. And here are the conditions all over the Southland. Southern mountain areas. You can see some of the new snow summit there with 4 inches of new and of course man-made. Heavenly Valley up to 2 inches of new snow. Mammoth, a foot of new snow. Up in the central Sierras, they got additional amounts, goodly amounts in that area. So, things are looking up a little bit for the ski industry.
So many people go to Mammoth to ski from this part of the country. Do they expect more in Mammoth? I mean, is that part of the Sierra going to get more snow?
We certainly hope that within the next couple of weeks, but in the next 5 days, we see very little chance of a new system coming through.
Clear skies, okay.
Not in the next 5 days.
All right. Thanks, Wayne. Well, it could have been a maternity ward nightmare, but a potential newborn mix-up has now been cleared up. But not before a battery of medical tests was conducted at the Western Medical Center in Santa Ana. It stemmed from confusion over the possibility that 2 newborn babies were given to the wrong parents. Hospital officials are not saying whether that in fact happened. All they are saying now is that each baby has been positively identified, and tonight each is in its correct home. Good.
Oh, let's take a moment now to see what's coming up at 10 o'clock.
For that, we turn to Kate Sullivan. She's standing by in the newsroom. Has word. Kate?
Larry and David, Hollywood, the place dreams are made of, but not for many who are facing the holiday without anything to call their own. That at 10 o'clock. And plus, if they made a movie about this Southland guy, instead of 3 men and a baby, they could call it 1 man and lots of babies. He became a dad and a grandfather almost at the same time. And speaking of movies, John Corcoran will review Arnold Schwarzenegger's latest. Those reports and much more when Jerry Dunphy and I join you at 10 o'clock. Larry, David?
Okay.
All right, Kate, thanks very much. 1 year ago today, U.S. troops invaded Panama, and they arrested Manuel Noriega. But people aren't celebrating. We'll show you why coming up next.
Also, Eduard Shevardnadze's sudden resignation gives us, for the first time, a glimpse into the philosophical differences at the highest levels of Soviet government. How does that affect the United States? We will find out from a Soviet expert next.
Ah, the good old days. A little upstart airline brought a smile to California with low fares and lots of flights. Alas, fares went up, flights went down, and the smiles faded. Now, Southwest Airlines has 2 ways to get to Las Vegas, with 5 flights from Ontario and 7 from Burbank for just $59 or less. So, thanks to Southwest Airlines, low fares and lots of flights to Las Vegas are back.
Now, back to All-Star Wrist Wrestling. Next, Bull Davis takes on newcomer Melissa Sanders. Here we go. Go!
The winner!
Amazing! How'd you do that?
Well, I'm a waitress at Bob's, and ever since they dropped the price of the Big Boy combos, I've been real busy lugging those big platters.
The original Big Boy Combo, burger, fries, and dinner salad, now only $2.99.
What do you do for fun?
Pick up men.
To find out how to get this free video cassette, The 10 Most Important People of the 20th Century, stay tuned.
Week after week, you're hit with news page after page and on the tube. Wanna keep up? Make time for time. You're curious, you want the news. Time has it all, what's smart for you. Oh, take a break. Make time for time.
Call now to get this valuable video cassette free with fascinating footage of the 10 most important people of the 20th century and the runners-up. Who did Time choose? And get 26 weeks of Time for 3 easy-to-pay installments of $9.89 each.
Make time for time. It's what you need. Make time for time. Keep up to speed. Pick up the phone. Make time for time.
Call now and save almost 55% off Time's cover price and get the 10 most important people of the 20th century free.
Make time for time.
A year ago today, U.S. troops invaded Panama and drove Manuel Noriega out of power. A year later, the joy of liberation is just a memory for most Panamanians, and the country is still mired in economic turmoil.
Greatly about civil unrest because of the economic problems. I think we have a social time bomb on our hands that has to be taken care of.
Panama's hand-picked government is ridiculed now as being inept, and critics say it's going through, quote, on-the-job training. They say the country is sliding back into a situation worse than that of Manuel Noriega.
At the United Nations today, the U.S. broke ranks with Israel and voted against its treatment of Palestinians. In a unanimous vote, the UN Security Council passed a resolution deploring Israel's deportation of Palestinians, and it called for the United Nations to monitor their safety. Today's vote marks the 3rd time in 2 months that the United States has voted against Israel in the Security Council.
As we reported at the top of this newscast, the big international story tonight is the resignation of Soviet Foreign Minister Eduard Shevardnadze.
Joining us tonight to help sort out what Shevardnadze's departure means is Professor Alex Heibel, an expert of Soviet affairs from Claremont College. And Professor Heibel, first of all, try and characterize the split between Shevardnadze and Gorbachev, if you would.
It is a very difficult split in the sense that the two have been allies since Gorbachev came to power, and hence Shevardnadze's stand, in a sense, places Gorbachev in a very, very lonely position. And therefore, what we have to look for in the near future is who Gorbachev will try to find as his replacement.
Is there any sense, Professor, in which this can be looked upon as a positive development?
It all depends on how Gorbachev addresses this particular resignation. In a sense, it could help him because what Shevardnadze was attempting to do is to convey the feeling, the sense that the liberals were not playing the role that they should have been playing all along, and that is to try to act as a bloc against military pressure on Gorbachev.
I want to clarify one thing, even for myself on this, and that is the Boris Yeltsin position here. He has been sort of the traditional other side of the coin to Mikhail Gorbachev. Where does Shevardnadze place himself now? Is he more in the Yeltsin camp, or is he outside of either one?
Well, I think the Yeltsin role is very different in that he is identified with the Russian Republic. Obviously, he has also been calling for greater expansion of the economy, for greater liberalization of the economy. But in a sense, I think that it is important to distinguish the two of them, largely because Shevardnadze does not identify himself as another Yeltsin, or at least in the side of Yeltsin.
It would seem that at least possibly the conservatives in the Soviet Union might see this as the opening through which they might now march and establish the kind of Soviet Union that they have wanted all along against the reform movement. I would suspect that the people in the Baltic states are watching this with a great deal of anxiety.
I agree, but at the same time, the military is quite cognizant that any attempt on their part to come to the good old days, as they would perceive them, would really bring about a major uprisal throughout all those republics that have been attempting to free themselves from Moscow's control.
Professor, this leaves Mikhail Gorbachev sort of out on a limb by himself, at least for the time being. Do you get any sense that he can handle the entire Soviet quagmire alone? Or what kind of rallying group is he going to be looking for now?
Well, he has not been handling it alone. But on the other hand, we must be very, very concerned and looking very, very carefully what is going to happen within the next 2-3 weeks. And in all honesty, I would not be surprised at all if he finally decided to resign.
You think that Gorbachev might see this and give up?
Well, in a sense, what has happened is that he has lost legitimacy. In his attempt to bring about major changes, he is finding himself doing precisely what he initially criticized, and therefore the Russian and Soviet public had lost respect on what he was attempting to initially do.
All right, Professor Heibel, thanks very much for joining us on this earth-shaking almost development, and we may have you back again, certainly, if Mikhail Gorbachev does anything that's shocking. Thanks once again for joining us tonight. Well, a coach gets the axe in the NBA.
And the Washington Huskies get the knife as they put their first taste of Tinseltown. Gary Cruz gets up next on Prime 9 News.
You have just got to get this thing.
You got to get this thing.
Prodigy. It's a great gift for anyone with a PC.
You wouldn't believe the number of uses that it has.
I do my shopping at home. I do my banking at home.
I don't have to wait in the line.
Prodigy now has a 21-volume electronic encyclopedia that's updated quarterly.
Awesome. My son sent me flowers through Prodigy.
Prodigy is the online service that connects your computer to news, shopping, sports, and now an encyclopedia that never goes out of date.
Gotta get this thing.
Now that's a great gift.
Prodigy.
It's in stores everywhere.
Grab your gift list and get set to save. Friday only, 8 to midnight only. The 16-hour sale counts down at Circuit City. Save now on a 13-inch color TV with easy remote, now only $147. And take home a compact microwave oven, great for tight spaces. Yours for just $56. Friday only, 8 to midnight only. It's the 16-hour sale. Time to save at Circuit City.
Welcome to Circuit City, where service is state-of-the-art.
The most powerful empire in the world.
The Corleone family, partners with the Pope. They may cry blasphemy.
The most unforgettable family in the country.
I am your son. You command me as you will.
The most compelling story of our time.
Take what's yours.
Now they'll fear you.
It was not what I wanted!
On Christmas Day, Paramount Pictures presents The Godfather Part 3, rated R.
Born in Scotland centuries ago, bred for strength and temperament, these magnificent creatures are the Clydesdales. And now, here's a rare opportunity to see them in person when the world-famous Anheuser-Busch Clydesdale team pulls into SeaWorld December 15th through the 29th. It's all part of the new holiday festival only at SeaWorld. It's not another park, it's another world.
Time now to cruise into sports. Take a look at it, huh?
Yes, fired up?
Absolutely.
I think.
Go for it.
Kings finally got fired up.
All right.
Yes.
About time.
Home or away, the Kings have struggled ever since Thomas Sandstrom was injured late in November. Entering tonight's game, they were 1-4 in their last 9 games, and they stopped in Calgary tonight. Let's go up there. Flames are up 2-0 in the second. Dave Taylor, a great pass here. It's incredible, actually. Todd Ehrlich hits the open net. It is 2-1. Todd Ehrlich. Al McGinnis does a great job now coming up here in a moment. He will set up Jamie McCown, but look at McGinnis. He fakes, goes behind the net, flips it out in front, and look at that. Slap shot almost beats up Kelly Rudy. It's 3-1 Flames. LA, though, makes a great comeback when Steve Duchesne just rips his shot by Rick Wamsley to tie it with a minute left. Then a huge mistake by Rick Wamsley. He clears the puck to Luke Reveltai's stomach, and then Luke does the rest. The Kings win dramatically in overtime, the final 4-3. but they really needed that win, trust me. Also on the scoreboard, Washington, St. Louis got to a 3-3 tie. Brett Hull had 2 goals. Boston over Buffalo, with Detroit 3-1 over Winnipeg. The Islanders 4-2 over Hartford. Jersey and Philadelphia skate to a tie, and it was Pittsburgh 4-3 over Minnesota, while Vancouver is leading Edmonton 5-4 in the third. Now, both local NBA teams are off tonight. More on them in a moment, but let's check in with Boston. They took a 20-4 record into their game, second best in the NBA tonight against Charlotte. If they had a Coach of the Year vote, Chris Ford would be a contender. The Celtics are doing everything right these days. Reggie Lewis with the steal, and he deals with a slam dunk at the other end. The Celtics do the unexpected too this year. Kevin McHale from 3, that's right, 27-17. Boston pulls away. There was a Charlotte highlight. Johnny Newham, watch him, comes from nowhere with a follow slam, too little too late. Celtics win their 21st game, 115-96. Atlanta over Utah big. It was Houston in overtime over Orlando. Seattle beats Sacramento 110-75. Portland leads Golden State by a point. That is in the 4th period. Now, off the court, the second NBA coaching casualty of the year occurred today when Dick Versace was canned in Indiana. Pacers general manager Donnie Walsh decided to make the move after his team's overtime loss last night to Washington. Now, he was replaced by former Knicks coach Bob Hill. If Hill doesn't work out, do not be shocked if former Denver Nuggets coach Doug Moe shows up in Indiana. That hasn't happened yet, but it could. Lakers, in the meantime, continue to take Showtime on the road. They'll stop at Air Jordan's joint tomorrow night. And the final game of a 3-game road trip, Showtime was slop time in Cleveland last night. They don't want to duplicate that tomorrow. Now, while the Lakers stay away from home, the Clippers return to Los Angeles following last night's disappointment against New Jersey. Now, it gets no easier. Portland is in town tomorrow night. Yes, Portland. And it doesn't help playing the Blazers when you're in a slump and waiting for your star guard.
We got to rock and roll with the players that we have. You know, we're trying to stay around 500 until Ron gets back, and then we expect to explode. Hopefully we can, you know, keep the people healthy that are healthy now and not have any more injuries, and I think that we'll be okay. The main thing for us is just to stay focused and attempt to stay injury-free.
In college hoops, Loyola Marymount tried to run LSU Shaquille O'Neal into the ground. It didn't work. LMU's Terrell Lowry, though, let the tempo right here with a 3-point shot. He had 40, but look at this. The tactic to tire Shaquille O'Neal didn't work. He beats the double team here, and then he shows his awesome power with the two-handed jam. He scored 29. The 7-1 superstar can play defense, too. Watch him reject Lowry as he climbs the invisible ladder for the block. 122-114. LSU wins. Now let's check in the newsroom where Joe Fowler is standing by. Buddy Ryan say something silly again?
Oh, Buddy Ryan babbled and babbled and babbled, and it's great stuff. He was taking some shots at Jimmy Johnson, coach of the Cowboys. We'll have that for you in 1 hour.
Thank you, Joseph. See you in an hour.
All righty.
Also tonight, they weren't asking where's the beef at the 35th Lowry's Beef Bowl at Beverly Hills, a restaurant there. Honored tonight were the Rose Bowl-bound Washington Huskies, folks. The rich tradition continued as the Huskies, 95 strong, invaded Lowry's restaurant to eat their traditional prime rib meal. In the old days, these guys could eat as much as they wanted. That has changed for health reasons. But if they could, I searched for the hungriest Husky.
Hey, we got Lincoln Kennedy, Soup, Mala Mala. Lincoln's right over there in the corner.
Lincoln, where are you?
I don't think I could eat the most. I think I put in a pretty good contention, though. I know Dean could eat, though. Dean Kirkland.
I'd say it's between Kennedy and me and Soup. Ed, one of the offensive linemen. I don't know. Soup, I seen him eat half a bear before, so I'd come down to that.
They say you are the biggest, greatest, most incredible eater on the Washington Huskies team.
Nah. I'm not, though. We got some big guys on the team and some big eaters, but personally, I think if you line me up next to all of them, I might be able to beat them. They're about 300 pounds, but I'm 215, and my 215 is probably 213 stomach.
My money's on Soup. I like Soup.
Where's that guy get his shirts? A sale factory?
He has to. Omar's.
Those are some big guys. Those are some big guys and big eaters. All right, thanks, Gary.
Okay.
Well, everybody, and I mean everybody, seems to be in line already to see the movie Godfather 3.
But is it worth it?
Shameful ceremony.
I spent my life protecting my son.
Gene Siskel's Weekend Picks are next.
Papa?
In 1942, over 100,000 Americans were interned in prison camps in America.
I'll find you, Billy.
Now, Alan Parker, the director of Mississippi Burning and Midnight Express, ignites our deepest feelings once again. Come see the paradise.
She's an American, and I'm her father.
Rated R. Exclusive engagement starts Sunday at the AMC Century City.
Last year, Hoover brought you a vacuum powerful enough to pick up a brick. This year, Hoover introduces the powerful Spectrum Cleaner with this handy swivel hose in case you have a brick here or there. Hoover invented it.
Paul's can deliver this 45-inch Mitsubishi big screen TV by Christmas. You make no payments till July, and Paul's the king of big screen.
I am the king.
This week, you should see what Mervyn's has on sale at 50% off. If the glare isn't too bright. Woo!
Which one of you guys am I getting for Christmas? Eeny, meeny, miny, mo!
So, which one did I like?
Oh, honey, could you come back later when I've made up your mind?
All fine jewelry is 50% off through Christmas Eve at Mervyn's. Mervyn's welcomes the American Express card and the Optima card for all your holiday shopping.
Every year, consumers have more cars to choose from. Yet, for the 13th year in a row, more people have bought Hondas again and again than any other import. Why? Maybe because through wind, rain, sleet, or even snow, your Honda dealer always delivers. Your Southern California Honda dealers, as dependable as the cars they sell.
Possibly the most talked about new movie of the season could be a very good choice for the weekend.
Gene Siskel of the team of Siskel and Ebert chose Godfather 3 and 2 others for their weekend pick.
What movies to see this weekend? I can recommend The Godfather Part 3. Though not perfect, how can you resist this story?
What you come here for?
I came here to protect my son. I didn't come here to see you disguised by your church. I think that was a shameful ceremony.
I spent my life protecting my son. I spent my life protecting my family.
Also recommended The Russia House, with Sean Connery as a British bookseller who winds up being a key player in Cold War espionage. His head is turned by a Russian woman, Michelle Pfeiffer. They're good together in a witty script written by Tom Stoppard.
It's unselfish love, grown-up love. You know it is.
Barley, please.
It's mature, absolute, thrilling love.
And I also like another adult love story, Havana, with one of Robert Redford's best performances as a selfish gambler in pre-Castro Cuba who finds in Lena Olin, a revolutionary, a cause he can believe in. Director Sidney Pollack does an exemplary job of recreating the last days of the Batista regime.
See, the idea was that no matter how bad things got, no matter what they did to you, no matter what, you still have this last chance.
3 very good, mature love stories in those recommendations. I'm Gene Siskel.
Well, I'm interested in all 3.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. It's the last 3 or 4 days before Christmas shopping. I can't see spending 6 hours in a darkened theater. I got too much to do.
That's right.
Have to wait.
That's right.
Sorry, Gene.
In between holidays,
That's
maybe.
it.
Between Christmas and New Year's.
Well, we got a deal for you can't refuse. Jerry Dunphy and Kate Sullivan in the 10 o'clock Prime 9 News.
That's right, but thanks for joining us tonight at 9. We'll all be back tomorrow.
The Ford Taurus. It's been called stylish, comfortable, practical, the